What's going on? Welcome back to the Services Power Podcast, Serving Leaders. So excited to be with you. Please forgive me. It's that time of the year where all those flu bugs and those cold bugs are coming around, and one of them caught me. And so if I sound a little stuffy, that's what's going on. But hey, we're still fired up. We're so glad to be with you. Thanks for taking some time to share life with us, to serve lives, other people. If you're a college student or you live life around a college student, we want to be connected with you. Not too close, obviously. We don't want to share our germs, but hey, there's a lot of things that we have to share with one another here at the Services Power Podcast. Thanks so much for continuing to hook up with us. Shoot us an email, get in contact with us. hello@servicespower.org. Tons of things going on here at the Services Power Podcast. Coming into a landing here in 2018, we've got some exciting podcast guests. Been really fun to interview these folks. And of course, we're ramping back up for 2019. Please be on the lookout for some things going on. Social media is about to ramp up. The website's about to get revamped. This is absolutely great. If you love the podcast, if you like what's going on, please share it wherever you're at, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, whether you're jumping on to the website, SoundCloud, wherever you're listening to this thing at. Thanks so much. Let us know how we're doing, how you're doing as well. And so many times, the speed of life is so important. As a matter of fact, we have a saying around here, the Services Power Podcast: life moves at the speed of you. What that means is just we're able to really dictate where our life goes for the most part. And as servant leaders, we allow the pace of life around us and around others to really motivate us on how we're going to be living our life. And sometimes we're going to ramp that life speed up, and sometimes we've got to slow it down. For servant leaders, we have to have a little bit of an off-speed pitch in life sometimes because other people are so intricately involved with us. This episode is called Why Not Now? Why Not You? And I love the pace of our guest, Antoine Hall. This is going to be a bit of an off-speed pitch. It's going to be a bit of a change-up to what we're typically used to, but it's so vital for us to understand that life doesn't always move at the same tempo and pace. Antoine Hall is an IT consultant with 18 years of experience in the industry. In 2012, he became a certified Christian life coach and also became a certified professional Scrum master, both of which has roots in servant leadership. His current professional role is a Scrum Master and Agile Coach at Cardinal Solutions Group, now called Insight. In his spare time, he enjoys the process of his journey of his family, making it from the city to the country. He's a follower of Christ. He's a husband to his beautiful wife of 17 years, and he's the father of 2 awesome kids. This is an awesome episode. Listen, servant leaders, want you to pay really close attention to the stories that are about to be told, because there are nuggets on how to become the very best servant leader we possibly can be, making it a choice and making that decision. Why not now? Why not you? Let's get ready. Let's go. Welcome back, servant leaders, to the Services Power Podcast. And I got a guy on here on the podcast, and you guys know the podcast is kind of just starting out, and as we hear feedback from people, as people kind of call into us, they talk to us at hello@servicespower.org. They've been asking the question, when are you guys going to get podcast guests? Are you going to be the only person talking on the podcast? And of course, we've got podcast guests, but I want to make sure that I bring the best to the podcast. So I'm out and I'm looking for all of you guys who have called in, who have emailed in, who have talked to us, looking for podcast guests. And I find this article from this project manager. And I've never thought about a project manager in servant leadership, but this article is just so good. So I had to reach out to him. And the funny thing about this is, as I reach out to this young man who wrote this fantastic article about servant leadership as a project manager, he's looking at me like, who is this guy? And so he researches me, I'm researching him, and we end up emailing and connecting. And I've got Antoine Hall on the call right now at the Services Power Podcast. He's a senior project manager with Cardinal Solutions, and he also has a website, a fantastic website called Jireh Homestead. Antoine Hall, how are you doing? What's going on with you? It's good to see you, man.
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on. Things are going good. Life is good. I can't complain.
Yeah, man. Would you tell us just a moment about who you are, kind of what you do? Give us a little bit deeper of an intro.
All right. So, really quick, I'm a husband. I'm a parent of two. I have a daughter and a son, a daughter named Zion, son named Judah, and they're 13 and 11 years old. And like I said, I'm a senior project manager. That's kind of my label on the job and on paper. Although I'm not really too fond of the project management side and pushing all the numbers and stuff, is more so of the Scrum Master side of the house and being agile coaching and things of that nature. So that's what I do now, and it's in the IT consulting industry. I get the opportunity to go and meet with different clients and work on different projects. And because I have also a development background and application development background, it kind of gives me a unique perspective to see different projects from a developer point of view, but also from a project management / agile coach and Scrum Master point of view as well. So it's fun because it keeps me on my toes. Right now, I'm enjoying things.
Fantastic. So good to hear. Before we jump into the Scrum Master and the Agile stuff when it comes to your IT career and it comes to servant leadership, can you talk a little bit about living in Raleigh, North Carolina, and how you were able to get in with your family during the tragedy, during Hurricane Florence, and kind of some of the servant leadership examples, the applications that you had seen or that you had experienced while helping your family out during Hurricane Florence?
Yeah, sure. So I am in Raleigh, and it's probably about 2 hours away from where my mom and the rest of my family is, at least from their side of the family, is in New Bern, North Carolina. And as Florence approached, we thought we were going to get hit pretty bad. The Raleigh area was going to get hit pretty bad, and it was approaching at a Category 4, Category 5. But then it did this crazy turn and came up to the bottom of the East Coast, but then it went into South Carolina, and then it came around through the Charlotte area. And through the process, it ended up dropping a ton of rain, and it had a crazy storm surge. So it pushed a lot of water, and New Bern is on Twin River. So it's at a point where the river is at one of its widest points. And so when you have all of that water that's being pushed in, and then you have rain from central North Carolina pushing everything down, it has to go somewhere. So there was a lot of flooding in the area. My mom's house had water get up to the crawl space, and in the garage in the back, the water was the same equal as height, but there were things flipped over in the garage. And so my brother and I, we ended up going down there and just helping her remove some things. Luckily, she was actually one of the houses that didn't have water to come in and get into the furniture, get into the walls. It just came up just high enough inside of the crawl space to where it got the floorboards wet. So that was a good thing. But then the other thing is we had to go and empty out the garage. We had to throw a lot of stuff out of the garage. We had to cut insulation up to about a foot and a half up to the garage just to make sure we can avoid some of the mold and it can dry out. But the cool thing about that was, even though my brother's in Charlotte, I have a cousin who lives in Virginia. He lives in Norfolk, Virginia. He's a retired Navy, a civilian that does like some type of development and training and stuff. He still works with the Navy. I had told him that I didn't think he needed to come based on what we had saw, but he said that he wanted to come down anyway. And his age, he's probably like a little bit younger than my mom, but he's more closer to my mom in age than he is actually to myself and my brother in age. And one of the cool things that, I thought was awesome was he decided to drive 3 hours down for a day and a half to come work and help and then turn around and go back. To me, it was not necessarily what I did. It was what he did. And when he came down, he served, he helped, and he didn't turn around and get back. And it was like, hey, I know we're family. It's not like I'm coming 20 minutes away or I'm coming 30 minutes away. I'm driving 3 hours away to come to help. You just tell me what I need to do, and this is where I'm going to go and fit in and help and just do whatever and then turn around and go back. So to me, it spoke to a lot of things. It spoke to, one, as a leader, because he's older and, I looked at him sometimes and I would talk to him sometimes. Two, it's how selfless is it that you go and give your time and you're going to leave your family and come down and help out your aunt and cousins and help fix up and around the area. So, and then on top of that, there's just so many different people that are just giving up their time and helping, so many ministries and different nonprofit organizations that are going around from house to house to house, just tearing stuff out, tearing materials out. And they're doing it all like I said, all volunteer work and no charge. So there's a lot of service going on, believe me.
Servant leaders, I want to make sure that we capture what Antoine is saying in this moment. He had people that drove 3 hours to come help. And the statement that he made was, it's not what I did, it's what he did. It's what they did. About being in a position where you can see and grasp and then react to what other people are doing that is significant in the lives of the people that are around us. When a neighborhood rallies around a tragedy, and here's the great thing about tragedies. Tragedies can definitely be global, but they can also be personal. Someone around us is going through a personal tragedy. What happens in life when servant leaders rally around a personal tragedy? They begin to rip out things that are dead or dried up or soiled emotionally, mentally, physically in their life to make them reveal what is rotten or what is bad or what needs to be thrown out in their lives so that they can be rebuilt up. And it's a part of what we do as servant leaders to not just notice the issues, but also respond to those issues, and not just respond and then go away, to see the project, the person, the people, the neighborhood, the community, our lives, the people we work with, completely made whole. Now, speaking of work and what you do for a living, Antoine, you are in the IT, you're a project manager, but you mentioned being a Scrum master. Could you talk to us a little bit about what a Scrum master is and why that is so important for servant leaders?
Yes. So in the technology world, and I would say it's relatively new in the kind of grand scheme of things when doing development projects, you have what's called Agile, which is the umbrella. And then you have under that, you have the different type of ways to implement projects. And one is implementing it using the Scrum. And when you do so, you build a team that has all the people, individuals on the team that you need, but it also includes a Scrum Master. And the Scrum Master is key and important role. The Scrum Master isn't the team lead. The Scrum Master isn't necessarily labeled as the team lead. The Scrum Master sole purpose there is to serve. They're there to remove impediments, to remove issues. The Scrum Master is there to say, hey, what do you need? What can I do for you to make your job easier so that you can get whatever it is done that you need to get done? So do you have the tools that you need? Do you have the resources that you need? Whatever it is somebody bothering you that's stopping you from doing your work. Okay, let me intervene, get these people out of the way so that you can be productive and get the job done that you need to get done.
So you talk about removing roadblocks and making people's jobs and life easier. Do you have any stories, any personal accounts of how implementing as a Scrum Master to a team has been able to enhance and help the team grow and be able to get the job done?
Sure. So I can take one of, so a couple of years ago, I was at a company and I joined the team. I took over as the Scrum Master for the team. The team had never been successful at delivering what's called a sprint. So when you're working in Agile and you're working in Scrum, you break things up into iterations. So you break them up into short sprints where you can have something that you can produce at the end. So instead of waiting an entire year where you have something to say, I have a product, you release something that you can show or demo every 2 to 3 to 4 weeks. And so the team had been unsuccessful at doing so, but they had a lot of different dynamics going on. So you had personalities, you had the complexity of the project, you had a lot of different things. And so one of the things that I tried to get in to do was first understand all the different personalities on the team, because one thing that you'll learn and being in some type of leadership role is that when you have a bunch of chiefs, it can be a problem because everybody has an opinion, everybody has a say, and they believe that their way is the right way, the highway. But what I had to kind of do is step back and it's like, okay, let me see what's going on. Let me observe and let me see what some of the problems are. And sometimes in life, sometimes the problem isn't necessarily a tool. Sometimes we can have people problems. One of the things that we had on the team was, someone on the team who wasn't a good team player, and they were actually doing more harm than good by trying to do all the work or doing more than what was asked of them, because in some cases we had to take some of their work, step back some, and do rework, which was slowing the team down. So, we have to identify some of those things, have those conversations. And sometimes they're tough conversations. But I put it this way, the same thing like I tell my kids and I tell other people, like, I'm not going to ask you to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. The expectations that I would have for myself would be the expectations that I would have for you as well. So, with this guy, we had to have a one-on-one, and we had to kind of sit down, hash some things out. It turns out that, unfortunately, the company ended up kind of moving him out the way. Once that began to happen, we started producing work. I'm not happy about it. I wasn't happy that someone had to be let go on the job, but I mean, sometimes it's just life and it's tough, but I wasn't there to have, like I said, have anybody removed, but business is business. I can't control that. And the company is there to produce a product, produce a service, and make revenue. So in that particular case, we had to keep moving the team forward while at the same time removing any impediments, removing any issues, any problems that will stop the team from getting the job done.
Certainly. Now, we're thinking about servant leaders, college students, people who are in school right now, but are looking to get into the job force, looking to get into doing some work. And thinking about servant leadership, the unfortunate stereotype is that it sounds like it's weak. It sounds like it's just people getting ran over. Can you talk about, as you're giving that story and that example, can you talk a little bit about the intestinal fortitude as a servant leader it takes to actually make that tough choice, to have that tough conversation with people, not allowing someone to necessarily walk over you, but taking control of a situation as a servant leader?
I think to just that point, a lot of people sometimes assume that because you're quiet, that you can be an easy walkover or taken advantage of. That's not necessarily the case. And one thing that I would encourage people to do is first know who you are. And the second thing is not only know who you are, be confident about who you are. So, you know where to draw the line, you know where to make compromises, and you know how to work with different people and different individuals. So as a college student and someone who's aspiring to be a servant leader, I would definitely tell you to not be afraid, one, to say no, especially if it compromises your values. And then the other thing is, don't be afraid to walk away. I mean, not every situation is a situation for you. Not every situation is, you may think is perfect in your eyes, but sometimes you have to break the chains and just say, okay, wash your hands clean of it and just go in a different direction. And then at other times you may have to tackle the situation and just take it head on to where, hey, it may make you feel uncomfortable, but sometimes as a leader, you have to deal with uncomfortable situations. And although that may be putting you front and center at the moment as a leader, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be front and center all the time, because great leaders work in the background. But at times, great leaders have to step up to the foreground in order to make things happen and then fall back to the background.
Oh, wow. That is great advice. Sometimes leaders have to work in the background, then they have to step up to the foreground. It's all about being the type of leader that understands who they are, as you have asked us and told us to look at ourselves, to understand who we are and be confident in who we are, to understand those moments, understand our team, understand what we've got going on in life and in that certain situation. Now, you've got a couple of things going on in life, and one of them was about growing this lifestyle that you're calling Jireh Provisions Homestead. Can you talk to us a little bit about what it's like to serve your family with this endeavor?
Well, first, let me back up and say, well, the Jireh Provisions Homestead, which is at jirehprovisions.com. One thing that we're trying to do is get back to a way of life where we understand how to grow our food, where our food comes from, or just simply doing things by ourselves. Because we are most of us are about 1 or 2 generations removed to where we had family members who were sharecroppers or just garden. grew their own, like my grandmother, they grew food out and back, and they canned their own food. And I remember going to my great grandmother's house, and I would always get a jar of bread and butter pickles, but I knew it came directly from their garden. And a lot of people don't understand and sometimes lose relationship of when they walk into a grocery store, they don't know where their food comes from. A lot of people just see the food, buy the food, but don't necessarily associate the food or the meat with an animal or with a plant. They just associate it with the store. And so what we wanted to do was to be able to go back so that, one, we can educate our kids and show our kids how to be able to be a little bit more self-reliant. But then also we have a mission to be able to feed ourselves, feed our neighbors, and feed our community. So that's the ultimate goal, is to be able to produce enough food to be able to start small, grow big, and then be of service to the people who are around us.
When you're dealing with people, you're definitely going to have to be patient. You and your wife, you guys are life coaches. And so you deal with people on a consistent basis. And one of the things as a life coach you got to deal with are the sour spots in people's lives, some of the sad moments and some of the tragedies that are typically commonplace in life. Could you talk a little bit about dealing with some of those tragic moments in life as a life coach, and what it means for servant leaders to step in and deal with those small moments and as they grow in other people's lives, and how to help people navigate through some of those tough moments?
Yeah, sure. So I can give you an example actually just from my own experience myself. So my father passed away in September 2015, completely unexpected. Got a phone call on the job, and mama had the bad news. And I had to relay the bad news to my brother and let him know, what was going on. Throughout that time, I kept wondering, like, why? Why now? Why this? He was 63 years old. He had so much life more to live. And I kept asking myself, why did this had to happen right now? And one of the most dangerous things as a Christian that you can do is start to question God and his reasons. And I didn't want to question him as in, you made a mistake, but I just wanted to know why now. One of the things that we try to encourage people to say, not only why not now, why not you? And sometimes that's a hard pill to swallow, because a lot of the times we think everything is supposed to be peachy keen and everything is supposed to go smooth and we're not supposed to have any bumps in the road. But the reality is that life throws us bumps in the road and obstacles all the time. So one of the things, and I wanted to get back to, one of the things that at his funeral that he was still teaching me as an adult was how to work and deal with people. And my father was the type of person that would give of his time all the time. I mean, he would give of his time so much that he would be tired, and my mom would fuss at him and wonder, why are you doing so much for these people? They don't do enough for you. They don't do enough for you. And, I would see people take advantage of my dad all the time. And it got to the point where I would ask him that too. Why are you doing all of this for these people? And one day we were talking, we had a conversation before he died. And he said, you know what? The reason why I do what I do, I just treat people the way that I think God would treat people. It's not my problem to worry about what they do and how to react to it. I just treat people the way that he would treat people. And it kind of blew me away, because at his funeral, I remember reading a verse. I don't remember the verse right offhand, but it was pretty much the same thing. Sometimes we go through life and we want to cut people off, but when you're serving people, sometimes you serve people that you don't want to deal with. Sometimes you serve people who treat you wrong. Sometimes you serve people who treat you bad. But if it's your life's purpose and your life mission to serve people, then regardless of whatever happens, you're going to continue to serve people in the way that you've been led to serve people. And so to me, that was a huge life lesson that was coming out of that. The last part, and I'll try not to be too long-winded, that I got out of that was, one of the things I often wondered was, like, I felt like that he was gone too soon. And it wasn't not too soon. It was probably it was on time. it was the right time. And the reason why I thought it was too soon, because I felt like he had so much more to pour into me, so much more to give. But one of the greatest things that he told me, I remember saying, was like, hey, I'm proud of you, what you become. I'm proud of you of your life. And I'm, proud of your brother. And, as a man, that's one of the greatest things that you can hear, it's that confirmation that something was right. And when I look back over everything and I do that reflection, it's, hey, wait a minute, he did everything. He saw his sons, he raised his sons, he saw them go off and be married, have beautiful wives. He had grandchildren, had a wife of 45 years. And, in the grand scheme of things, for us, it seemed bad, but he lived a full life. And all throughout his life, I saw him serve. And while for me, it was tragedy at the time, it was learning to also see the good that he did. And even though it was a loss to me, it was still a great lesson that I'm still learning every day. And I reflect on every single day that even though he's gone, he's still teaching me a life lesson.
Love the question, why not now? Why not you? Servant leader, why not us? Why can't it be us? Why can't we be the ones that are connecting with people, that are making sure that people are seeing the best within themselves and within others? Why can't it be us that drags out the greatness that's inside of the lives of the people that we connect with on a daily basis, just the same way Antoine's dad drug that out of his own life? It's going to take all different types of circumstances and situations, but it's going to be up to us to see those things and make sure people's lives are highlighted at the right times in the best situations. Antoine, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. How can we connect with you? How can we talk to you? How can we reach out to you if we want to know more about what's going on with you?
Definitely. You can go to our website. It's www.jirehprovisions. It's JirehProvisions.com. So JirehProvisions.com. And you can connect with us there, my wife and I, or you can find me on LinkedIn.
Fantastic. Antoine, thanks so much for your time. This was a fantastic episode, and I am so glad that everybody got to look into a piece of your life, all the things that you've been through. Thank you so much, and I hope you have an incredible day. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Lyle.
So encouraged by how this episode ends. Antoine Hall telling us the story about his family. Listen, want to leave you with this one thought. Legacy. Isn't this how you would like to leave a legacy? The same way Antoine's father left a legacy for him? When we pass away, what will others say about you? I know this, when I get something engraved in my tombstone, when I'm being laid to rest, I want it to say that I gave my life away to others. The legacy I want to leave isn't one about my name being put in lights. It's not about what my accolades were, what my name written on the wall was all about. But it was about how I empowered others, how I helped others become the very best that they could possibly be, how I was intricately involved with other people. As a matter of fact, I would hope that on my tombstone, my name is the smallest. It's really about the legacy left for other people to be empowered and to be successful in life. Personally, I want others to say that I gave my life in service. And we're hoping that we're giving our lives in service to each and every one of you. We're so thankful that you continue to rock and roll with us. There are so many people listening to the podcast, and we are excited that you're continuing to give this information out. Hit us up at hello@servicespower.org. We want to hear from you. So glad that you're jumping on the train with us, and we cannot wait to see you at the very next stop. It's our honor to serve.